Jagadguru Sudarshan Acharya Ji Maharaj. I want to pay my obeisances to Lord Sri Ramanuj. I want to pay my obeisances to Mother Lakshmi. And I want to pay my obeisances to Lord Sriman Narayan. I want to welcome all of you here at the Sri Narayan Dham, Sri Sudarshan Goshala, Varsity Drive, Reservoir Hills, Durban, which is in KwaZulu-Natal, South Africa. I want to welcome those devotees and aspirants that are watching this discourse on live feed, locally, nationally, and internationally. I also want to welcome those devotees that will be watching this discourse subsequently when it is posted in various groups from around the world. Having said all of that, we're going to go into our topic of this morning, and that is God is the source of all knowledge. God is the source of all knowledge. We're going to use, to affirm all of this, we're going to use logic, reason, and scriptures. We're going to use logic, reason, and scriptures. But before we even go there, I've asked Lakshmi Ramanuj Dasi to define a few words so that we would reason, can understand these words first before going into the explanations subsequently. So the first word is K-N-O-W, know. What does it mean to know?
Be aware through observation, inquiry for information.
You got another mic?
Be aware through observation, inquiry, or information.
So to know means to be aware through
Inquiry or information.
inquiry or information. Inquiry will come from reason and logic, and information will be that which exists already. So to know means again
To be aware through observation, inquiry, or information.
okay. Awareness means to be conscious of. Awareness means to be conscious of. So to be conscious of knowledge through inquiry or information. To be conscious of knowledge through inquiry or observation. To observe, you need to use intelligence. To observe, you need to use intelligence. So can animals use knowledge through awareness? No. So in order for animals to use knowledge, they have been endowed with instinctive intelligence. They have already been endowed with instinctive intelligence. What does instinctive intelligence mean? That in their very consciousness, they have already been programmed with knowledge unique to that specimen of animal to survive in this material universe. It means they have already been programmed with knowledge unique to each species to survive their lifetime on this material or in this material universe. Which means that there had to be some intelligent entity to program these species. There had to be some intelligent entity to program these species, like your computer. Once a computer is programmed, it will work in accordance with that which it has been programmed to perform. A computer that is programmed to spray motor vehicles. Have you seen computers spraying motor vehicles in assembly yards? Some intelligence was used to program these computers. Some intelligence was used to bring all the parts together and fit it into an instrument that is called the computer. And some intelligence is used to turn this computer off or to turn this computer on. The computer did not assemble on its own. The computer did not assemble on its own. Similarly, all the other species of life, including the human species, did not assemble on its own. There had to be an intelligence behind the assembly of all the various species of life. Apart from the human species of life, of which there are 400,000 levels of consciousness, 8 million species of life have been programmed to survive and to live in this material universes without gaining any knowledge. They just exist wherever they are. So a fish will instinctively survive, protect, procreate, and defend in its own environment in the aquatics. Similarly, a tree will withstand wind and harsh weather conditions instinctively by being deeply rooted wherever it is planted. or wherever it exists. Birds will live in a capacity that is conducive to its flying mechanism. So it will be able to defend, it will be able to procreate, and it will be able to move from one place of another through the air, instinctively. So a bird does not have to go for pilot training or pilot license. A bird will just start flying through instinct. However, man has been endowed not only with intelligence, because all these other species have intelligence to various degrees. Man has been endowed with intelligence and intellect. Man has been endowed with intelligence and intellect is not found in the lower species to the capacity or degree that is found in human. Who is knowledge valuable to? From the 8.4 million species of life, who is knowledge valuable to? Sorry? Only to the humans. Okay? I can dive with a tank of oxygen into the aquatic and pass all of this knowledge to all the entire aquatic world. You think it means anything to them? I can bring those 3 donkeys that are on our premises and make them sit here and give them all of the knowledge that is available. Will it be of any use? Sorry, goats. Okay? So knowledge can only be utilized by a conscious entity in human form. Knowledge can be valuable to a conscious entity in human form. So to know is again the definition of know.
Is be aware through the observation, inquiry, or information.
Observation means that which is there already, and you use that through reason and logic. Okay? So now let's go to the meaning of knowledge. And what is the way you think? Which word is the root word for knowledge? Which would be the root word for knowledge? To know. So what is the definition of knowledge?
It's facts, information, and skills acquired through an experience or education, or the theoretical practice of understanding a subject.
Okay, you can repeat it.
Facts, information.
Okay, stop. Facts. What are facts? In what would you find facts? Where would you see facts? It means that which is tangible, which is in front of you, and we sometimes call evidence. Evidence, it means that something that can be cognized with the mind. It means something that can be cognized with the mind, and it must be there. It must exist. Okay? So if somebody says this world is Maya or illusion, there is no knowledge to cognize that inference. If somebody says that this world is an illusion or it is Maya, is there any fact? Is there any fact that you can cognize through your mental faculties to see this observation? So we cannot have knowledge of Maya. It is only a speech. It is a spoken word. It is a word with no evidence. Okay? The next.
Information and skills acquired through an experience or education.
Okay, it's information. Information or skills through experience. Experience means that you must live that moment or see through living experiment that which is being deduced. Can you live through illusion? Can you live through that which is called Maya? So, Maya and illusion are only spoken words. They are simply words that are spoken but cannot be cognitively deduced through your mental faculties, because you can't find it. And whatever you can't find does not exist. Whatever that cannot be found have no existence. Okay, next.
It's the theoretical or practical understanding of the subject.
Theoretical and practical. Alright? Theoretically, it has been observed that if somebody drinks a few glasses of alcohol, he will wobble and have slurred speech. So we say this theoretically. Then there are so many candidates here, okay? I don't know whom to ask the experience. We go to Dhana. Dhana? After a few doubles, what happens to your feet? You were not supposed to say start wobbling. You were supposed to say, in those days when I was consuming this forbidden alcohol, my feet used to wobble as much as it wobbles when my wife used to look at it. Okay? So in practical is that which has already been stated prior. Alright? Next. Okay, so that is knowledge. It comes from the word to know. So from know through to knowledge, fulfilling all its definitions and meanings, one has to be aware, which means one has to be conscious. Okay? So the next definition we asked was science.
The intellectual and practical activity encompassing the systematic study of a structure and behavior of the physical and natural world through observation and experiment.
Okay, in one word, science is knowledge. The meaning of science is knowledge. Alright? So the meaning of material science will be knowledge. Okay, so the definition of spirit.
The non-physical part of a person, which is the seat of emotion and character, the soul.
So spirit means soul. Spirit means anything to do with the soul. And the soul is non-material particle. So where are we standing now? So we know what it is to know. We know what knowledge is. We know what spirit is. Okay? And we know what material science is. So if you source knowledge through the soul, if you source knowledge through the soul, what type of knowledge would that be? Spiritual knowledge. Because the soul, by its very nature, is spiritual. And the definition of spirit is soul. So the knowledge that's coming from the soul will be spiritual. So to gain knowledge with evidence that can be cognized through the mental faculties, we have a group of people that have tested through theory and practice this knowledge that exists in the material world called material scientists. Don't we? And to attain knowledge from the cosmic world, which has been tried and tested through the spiritual information already sourced, through the spiritual information already sourced by a group of humans that have sourced these or this information through realizations or corroborated these information that already exist through realizations are called spiritual scientists. Are called spiritual scientists. And spiritual scientists attain this knowledge that exists already in the universe through realizations are called spiritual scientists. So we have two processes here, because we already defined knowledge, and we have two processes to receive knowledge that has been defined. All right. So one group of people, they find knowledge through the ascending process. One group of people find knowledge and confirm knowledge through the ascending process. What do we mean by the ascending process? Sarasha, how do scientists affirm knowledge? Start from the bottom and go to the top. It's called the ascending process. In that process, your experiment must match a certain outcome which is already predicted, is it not? And through repetition of the same experiment with the same ingredients, you must always get the same outcome. So if you mix a certain quantity of acid and a certain quantity of base, what would you get? Sorry? Neutralization. Certain quantity of acid and certain quantity of base will give you neutralization. And this is called the ascending process. Spiritual scientists get their information through the descending process. Spiritual scientists get their information through the descending process. Material scientists is on its way to the source. Material scientists are conducting experiments to find the source. Spiritual scientists have already found the source, and the information is coming in the opposite direction from the source. Are you understanding? So everything that material scientists are doing, their intent, their aim and their objective is to find the source. And everything that spiritual scientists are doing, they have already found the source, they are making you aware of the source. But the methodology is the same. Material scientists, through each specific formula, they will get a specific result. Spiritual scientists, through each instruction of God, they will get a specific result. Do you think material science and spiritual science is on a collision course? No, they're not on a collision course. It is simply like this. If I tell you, do not drink and drive, because the rule in KZN is zero tolerance, and if you get caught in a roadblock, you will be detained for 7 days and then you will be given bail. Alright? So that is the law. It came through the ascending process. It's there. I picked it up from there. It has a source. I'm not talking from my imagination. And if you trace this law back, you'll find it is a statutory law that is already embedded in our South African law system. And if you transgress, it means that person, I said nobody must sit in this side. If this law, then what is going to happen? You will really go to jail for 7 days. You will experiment being in jail for 7 days, and after 7 days you'll be given bail to come out of jail. So you experimented with this law and found it to be true. So this is exactly what spiritual scientists have been saying, gurus have been saying from time immemorial. Then scientists are going through the process and slowly they're catching up with what we have already said since time immemorial. So I'm going to prove this point, alright? So I asked Sirasha, who's our resident scientist, how many universities are you now in? Okay, so she is in 3 universities. University of Witwatersrand and
UP, University of Pretoria and Vedanta.
okay, so she is our resident scientist and also an initiated devotee of mine. And she is going to help the world through our association, synthesize material science with spiritual science. So I've asked her to read from a verse from the Yajur Ved. Before she reads that verse from the Yajur Ved, we said knowledge is information. We said knowledge is information. We said to know is to know information. Alright? And information is knowledge. The Yajur Ved or Veda has been proven by material scientists. The existence of the Yajur Veda have been proven by material scientists through carbon dating processes on the actual specimen on which these Vedas were written. Okay? And we allow them, I'm going to give them allowance for the purposes of this discourse only. Remember, our instructions are absolute. These scientists, whatever they are doing is relative until they become absolute one day. Okay? So, in the absolute knowledge, the Vedas were written 5,000 years ago. Okay? Scientifically, they are carbon dating between 5 and 3,000 years. So let's take 3,000 years ago. Okay? They have conceded that there is no scripture older than the Vedas. They have found no trace of any scripture that predates the Vedas. So let us use logic and reason. Okay? Logic and reason will state that the oldest scripture known to man is the Vedas. The oldest scripture known to man is the Vedas. Alright? Now, after she reads this verse, we are going to interrogate this verse again with logic and reason. Logic and reason. A bona fide spiritual scientist does not display any mysticism. He displays humility, logic, and reason through scriptural injunctions, affirming his logic and reason. Okay? So, to know how to find a true guru, that guru must have transcendental knowledge, he must be humble, and he must use logic and reason to teach you that transcendental knowledge. He must also bring in day-to-day experiences that you live and show you how this transcendental knowledge can make a difference in your day-to-day life. For this is the reason that this knowledge was given in the very first place. Okay, Sarasha? Listen very carefully.
It's from verse 21. A man of knowledge in service of the government, with the knowledge of navigation, building ships, goes to explore the seas. With the knowledge of aviation, flies to the sky. With the knowledge of space and space dynamics, goes to the brilliant regions of light. With the knowledge of yoga, explores the secret of pranic energy of breathing and vitality of the inner spirits. With the knowledge of astronomy, knows the motion of the sun, planets, and the formation of day and night. With the knowledge of grammar and versification, studies the interpretation and applies in practice of the four Vedas. With the knowledge of geography and astrophysics, goes to deep into the earth and space. With the knowledge of yajna, knows and practices the yajna of science and technology in the social, practical, economic, and spiritual fields. With the knowledge of herbs, pursues the science of health and life. With the knowledge of water and gases, explores their celestial presence and the formation of water and rain. With the knowledge of science of energy, studies heat, light, electricity, and all pervasive Agni, which is fire, and harnesses it for the uses in life. Knowledge of this, do all this, follow all this, and justify all I have taught to my heartfelt joy and satisfaction. Let the fumes and vapors of your yajna rise to the sky. Let the light of it reach the sun and fill and cover the earth with the essence and the alchemy of your yajna for valuable products. This is the divine voice.
Okay, so you'll heard verse 27 of the Yajur Veda, which can be found on page 127 of the Yajur Veda. This is one verse. This is one verse. So we concluded through science, material science, that the Vedas are over 3,000 years, which means this verse was written how long ago? Come, get up, please. If this Yajur Veda was written over 3,000 years ago, Then how old is this verse? 3,000 years and older. When was the first aeroplane invented? When was the first indication of astroscience? When was the first formalization of archaeology? All these things that she read happened yesterday. Happened when? Yesterday. But the Vedas declared it when? 3,000 plus years ago. In this verse that she read contains the entire functioning of the universe. In this one verse that she read contains the entire functioning of the universe. There are about 20,000 verses in the Vedas. So the Vedas on its own, the four Vedas, is a manual. Is a manual on how to live in this universe. So whenever something is created, which is an experience in our normal life that I've been discussing, with creation comes a manual. And with the creation of this material universe, an intelligent source that created this material universe with its diversity that is subsisting in unity. This intelligence that created this universe with all its diversity, which is subsisting in unity, also wrote a manual only for one species. Only for one species called Homo sapiens. Scientists will call these species Sirasha Homo sapiens, alright? Homo is not such a bad word if you combine it with sapiens. Make sure you combine it with sapiens. Alright? Homo sapiens from the scientific world, which we call human. Alright? This manual was created for the human society on how to live with each other, on how to live with nature, on how to live with material nature, and on how to live with all the species that is contained within material nature. And in this manual, like any other manual, I see a Sandero parked outside. Okay? So the Sandero comes from a vehicle manufacturing entity called Renault. The source of the Sandero is Renault. And when the owner of the Sandero bought the Sandero, then the owner would have bought it with a manual. Owner would have bought it with a manual. So behind the manual and the car, please do not disturb me. Behind the manual and the car is an intelligence. the car could not have manufactured itself by the various parts, neither could the manual printed and formulated itself in respect of the various parts of the car without an intelligence. Without an intelligence. So earlier on we asked the definition of soul. Earlier on we asked the definition of soul. What is the definition of soul? Or spirit? We asked the definition of spirit, and the definition of spirit means that which is non-material, and it is soul. If you look for the definition of soul from the Vedas, then the soul means eternal, full of knowledge, and absolute blissful. Definition of the soul means Sat Chit Anand. Sat means eternal, Chit means knowledge, and Anand means bliss. So the definition of the soul is Sat Chit Anand. In the Chit, called knowledge, there is an entity called consciousness. And the soul cannot exist without consciousness. Like a fire cannot exist without heat and light. If you extract heat and light, then there is no fire. And if you extract consciousness, then there is no soul. That consciousness has intelligence. That consciousness has intelligence. And that intelligence is the manufacturer of this entire universe and all the parts contained in this universe. And that intelligence also creates the manual for this entire universe and all the parts that are contained within this universe. And that manual is called the Rig Veda, the Yajur Veda, the Sama Veda, and the Atharva. But to give that intelligence a name, to give that intelligence a name which has created this entire universe and all the parts that exist within, there is a set of books called the Upanishads. And only within the Upanishads will you find the name of this intelligence that created the universe and also created the parts that is contained within, and that intelligence is named as Brahman. And that intelligence is named as Brahman. B-R-A-H-M-A-N. That Brahman in the Upanishads is further understood to be Lord Narayan. That Brahman who is the creator of all the universes and all the parts and parcels that exist in the universes, in the Upanishads, is called Lord Narayan. From the Upanishads, there are supplementary Vedic knowledge, which is affirmed by Narad Muni himself, wherein the Puranas are accepted as Vedic injunctions together with the Itihasas, and the Itihasas are the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. To give this knowledge in a nutshell, Lord Narayan incarnated 5,000 years ago in the form of Lord Sri Krishna, and he took these millions of verses. He took these millions of verses and he contained them within 700 verses. Lord Sri Krishna, Lord Sri Krishna, 5,000 years ago, took his birth on this planet, and at the battle of Kurukshetra, he spoke these 700 verses. And within these 700 verses lies the 4 Vedas, the 11 Puranas, 11 Upanishads, and all the Puranas. Whatever you need to know in life is contained within the 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita. So man in this modern age need not go and learn all of the Vedas. All he need to do is to have knowledge in the Bhagavad Gita. If you have knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, then only can you call yourself a Hindu. If you do not have knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, you do not follow the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, you live outside the instructions of the Bhagavad Gita, you cannot call yourself a Hindu, because the Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Hindu knowledge. You cannot be a Muslim and do not follow the Quran and call yourself a Muslim. You can only be a Muslim through practice. You can only be a Christian through practice. And you can only be a Hindu. And Hindu is a loosely colloquial term. It is not even found in the Vedas. That word does not exist in the Vedas. It is coined from a language that was used by Arabs who were referring to people that lives across the Sindhu River. They could not pronounce S. I think they were Ravi. They had no teeth in the front, so they said Hindus across, alright? So just for understanding here, many people put themselves on very high pedestals and say, I am a great Hindu. If you are not in the Bhagavad Gita, how can you be a great Hindu? All of you understand? Coming back to the topic and to close the topic. I stated that Lord Narayan is the source of all information. And I took you to a journey with my resident scientist, Lakshmi Ramanuj Dasi, together with all of you all that are present here, through logic, reason and scripture. Logic, reason, scripture and material science and common sense. Okay? If you cannot understand from logic, reason, common sense, scripture, material science itself, and my language, English, then there's nothing more that I can do for you. in order to explain that the source of all knowledge is Lord Sriman Narayan. Okay? Various scientific discoveries over the past 15-20 years have affirmed Lord Narayan as the source of all knowledge. Various scientific discoveries over time in the past 20 to 25 years by great scientists from NASA itself and other scientists have already confirmed indirectly what we have affirmed eternally, that Lord Narayan is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no other God other than Lord Narayan that is right on the top. It can never be. And if there are any incarnations of God, then it must be found in the Vedas. If any incarnation is not in the Vedas, then it is, or he or she cannot claim to be God. Then every guru that takes his birth on this material plane must be a guru who is directly linked to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because guru means G-U, means darkness, R-U means light. So guru means bringing someone from darkness into light. From which darkness and which light? Chris here has no light. Our boy who lives here, because this building light is not connected. Alright? So if spanners come and connect the light here, does spanner become the guru? This building was in darkness, now it came to light? No. Darkness means ignorance of the Vedas. What does darkness mean? Ignorance of the Vedas. So a bona fide guru must bring you from ignorance of the Vedas to knowledge of the Vedas. Then that is a bona fide guru. And if you trace him backwards, he must lead into Lord Narayan. Alright? Anyone else that claims to be a guru, who cannot teach you the Vedas with reason, logic, inference, and scripture, then that person is not a guru. So you will find, if you go on the internet and on TV, in India there's about 100 channels now with various types of gurus. Okay? Guru only come from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A guru is a representative, a specific representative. A guru is a specific representative of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All his teachings that he gives must come from the four Vedas, the Upanishads, the Puranas, the Itihasas. If a guru states that I was born 50% sugar and I do not need to learn any of that scriptures, that person is not a guru, because you must have, I can say I was born 50% Narayan, but there's my scriptures here. We are all born 100% Narayan, aren't we? Because everything is Lord Narayan, and Lord Narayan is everything. Can we all say we are gurus? So you have to go through a process called self and God realization before you become a guru. All of you understand? Are there any questions? Farah, any questions in the back? Ask questions.
I'll ask you after.
Sorry?
I'll ask you some questions after.
No, ask now. Or you can ask out, but if there's a question.
You mentioned that now Western science, I'm an engineer by profession, so I'm also
Listen, you
science.
block it.
Yeah, so you mentioned that Western science is now investigating whatever realization of, I would call it the primordial energy, right?
Yes.
They call it molecules and particles
yes.
and quantum mechanics. And as you said, modern science and spirituality or spiritual science is not on a collision path.
No,
They can
they're not.
same.
Yes.
So they've discovered this thing from Higgs boson and they call it the God particle.
Yes.
Right? So now this exists in between the nucleus. So very many years ago, the atom was the smallest molecule. Right?
Yes.
So now, this is the question maybe this lady can help me with. So now they go into the nucleus and they find another particle. So in another 100 years time, are they going to find more particles inside, or is this it? Because they have no definition of how this thing works.
Yes, okay. According to the Vedas, there are subatomic particles. Okay? The Vedas already declared subatomic particles. So what would subatomic mean?
Smaller than the atom.
Yes, at this point in time, the scientists thought that the Vedas was a mythology. Okay? So there are subatomic particles within the atom. Alright? When you continue coming to these lectures, then I will teach you, I think, at the next or subsequent satsangs, how within the atom itself is Lord Narayan, Lord Brahma, and Lord Shiva. They exist within the atom itself. And how Lord Narayan, when there is too much of negativity, he exists. He exits the atom. He exits. Like in your own body. Alright? If you hitting your pork and beef, Lord Narayan exists. In essence. Okay? And if you become a vegetarian and if you're living within accordance with the scriptural injunctions, then Lord Narayan remains. So the Vedas is absolutely scientific, and I gave you the definition of science. God does not want to remain a mystery. God does not want you to ponder too much. God has given every answer that is conceivable to man to question. And every week you can write 10 questions and come and question. Alright? Because we want this interactive. As you are questioning, this discourse is posted to over 600,000 people around the world. They also have that in mind. Because there were some gurus that went to the West and they became mystics. And they fooled the Western world through mysticism. And because of that, the Western world thinks that the Vedas and Sanatan Dharmas that is contained within the Vedas is mythology. So I took my birth as a guru in this point in time to remove all confusion, firstly within Sanatan Dharma itself, because Hindus are the most confused group of religionists in the world. So I took my birth to remove that confusion. And after I removed that confusion from the source itself, through discourses like this, I will remove that confusion from around the world. Are there any more questions? Jai Shriman Narayan. You may be seated.